Yeah, the reason this one's a bit disjointed, apart from setting the light to my leg, was the fucking cat's gone missing. File that for later. Imperial Whirlwind. That. Look, they look almost interesting there. They've got stripes on them. Camouflage. Bit a tiger. That. With some plastic card and some other odds and sods. And build yourself a little box. But what I've done is make the old drawing suit the newer tank. This obviously was drawn up for the old Mark 1 RTB 01, you know, the old pattern of Rhino. So I've added the detail to the drawings in this to try and get those two parts to marry up and look right. And so there's some techniques for rivets, panel lines. Okay class, so turn to page 40 of your ancient White Dwarf and grab your plastic card. Yeah, alright. I'm just grabbing some bits that I think might be useful, you know. I don't know what you've got, so I couldn't possibly suggest. That's a little, I think it's a rocket pod plate from the Corvus Black Star from the Death Watch. But I got that, and, you know, I'll look for other similar handles and widgets, greeblies that we can dress our box with. So I'll probably just cut one of those. I've got an idea of what I want to put on the back that will have nice texture, vents. Sharp edge of the knife for the first one, and then I flip it around and use the back edge just to score deeper and deeper and work my way through. So you're making the first one just for accurate, and then the back of the knife to just hack your way through, because it's soft enough, the plastic. You score it and then snap it. You see the bevel edge to the base leaves an angle there. You can see it against the ruler. So I'll just lean that over and just shy of 90 degrees. And then with my flat sanding block, I'll sand them flat. So I'm just making a little mark there between the circles. You know, you can't get anything there to measure. So eyeball it. If you're not confident, use a little pencil and then go in with the knife. The Mark 1 human eyeball is pretty bloody good. It looked right, so I carried on going. Me a nice clean cut on this particularly soft plastic, and then snap. I'm doing them both, even though I'll probably just throw that in the bits pile. Rolling hills of plastic crap that inhabit the back of my desk. So you see I've got a little mechanical pencil here, one of the fine line ones. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's a nice straight edge. Just put it up against something you trust as being flat and square. Make a mark. You can see I put the blade there, and then I line the ruler up to that mark and scribe away. You see, first one, blade down, and then a couple of subsequent passes. This is quite a chunky bit. It's like 1.5 mm thick. So I'm just going from the front to the back with the blade. If this were carpentry, I would use a square, speed square, or a little pocket square. And I'd follow the marks round from one side to the next. But in this instance, I'll just put my knife in the little groove, roll it across the side, and then round to the back. So we've got a nice mark for our ruler to butt up against. A couple more gentle passes, get rid of the fluff, and bink, it will snap. And that is pretty square and flat. I will nonetheless give it a little sand. It's worth cutting these things nice and accurately. It just means then your box is more likely to go together and be nice and square. It is very difficult when working at this scale to have everything be perfect. The tolerances are pretty tight. So this is my idea for the back of the box. And you can see it's the Razorback panel from your Rhino. Most Rhino kits come with a Rhino Razorback combo. Again, I'm using that trick of putting the square thing, screwing that edge up, marking the width of this piece here with either a square, you know, the old hobby square, or this, which again, I trust that that's a 90 degree. I can push that one closest to us up against that edge, push that one up against there. I know that's a right angle. I line it up to the mark and I cut across. I just prefer to scribe against a piece of steel than I would do a piece of plastic. If you do use a plastic one, just go easy, keep your knife at a low angle, and run the flat side of the knife against the flat square that you're using. Try and avoid the point, because that point could dig in. So I've cut that, and then what I'll do is I'll lay it on top of the other piece, squaring it up on the end again, and then scribe along that line and cut the pair the same length. Here's another one, you know, use a CD, something. CD case? No, just me? Yeah, I buy physical music. I like the artwork. It's got a beautiful gatefold, that. It's really pretty. Cthulhu. And it's very 40k, actually. 8-pointed star on the back of the t-shirt. So, we're at that stage. Let's glue some plastic together. So run a bit of the Tamiya thin cement there on all the faces. You might see me do this from time to time. I paint it all on all the surfaces, and then I go over it a second time. What you're doing there is you're kind of stirring the glue on the surface, and you're making it tackier. Again, another use of the 1-2-3 blocks for making things in right angles, holding things in place. Everything stands up nicely there, you see. Let that set up a little bit there while I make the cut on this. So I'm just picking the details that I like, cutting just below them, just to retain them on the final piece. It's quite thick, this one, so, you know, loads and loads of scoring. Once I've got part of the way through, I don't necessarily need the ruler. And I'm just following that groove deeper and deeper. So to make up the difference there, and obviously I don't want to have that slot above and below that little detail, I'll copy just a plain rectangle to go behind that piece, just so that we don't have a black hole into the inside of the box. So I'm just marking out by copying the sides. Again, same technique, a few passes, copying that line from the front to the back and passing the knife through again. Now I know that that will be exactly the same width, front and back. A little sand just to knock off the edges. There you go. I know how wide I want it to be, so I use the other missile piece. Just offering that all up. Of course, on the back there's a little bit raised detail, just flattening that off, getting the chunky bits off, a few rivets, and then we can glue those two bits together. Putting those two parts up against that block, pushing them together. Have a sip of tea and put the next episode of My Life in Miniature on. John's podcast. I'm on one of them. My mate Sasha's on one. Loads of great people on there. Lots of really great boys and girls that paint toy soldiers at various levels. Yeah, have a listen. John is a lovely man with a very sonorous voice. I think he missed his calling as a 1970s Radio 2 DJ. He has the tight curly hair of a Dave Lee Travis. Anyway, plastic card. So, yeah, I copied the width of that piece. You know this. You've seen me do it twice now. 3 times, 10 times. So again, just for speed, I've cut one, I know it's right. I lay it on top of the other one. I scribe, and I'll snap it off. Coming together, eh? It's a box. Amazing. It's so weird how this is very similar to 90% of the carpentry that I do. So I'm running the glue across this, then I'll pin it, and then I'll put some screws in it, and then, no, don't do that. Glue, 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 bish, bash, bosh. Push it up against the block, put a block on top, feel that everything's in the right place. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Robert's your mother's brother. Oh yeah. There we go, top and bottom box, all up. Easy as that. Now this is the tank I'm actually going to put the box on. It's a Razorback top that I turned into a Damocles. It's with kit bashed bits to run as the HQ unit. I think it knocks about in 40k as well as in 30k, but that's where it first came about. So I'm just looking over this tank, looking at shapes I might want to mimic. The angles, the lines, the seams, these funny little rectangular inset pieces. Looking at the kind of the visual language that the Space Marine vehicles have. So I'm not going to measure it, because then that would involve having numbers and doing maths. So I'm just going to slap that on top of it, measure it against it. You can see I'm using that same technique of squaring up, and that slightly thicker bit of plastic, that offcut. I know it's nice and straight because I cut it with a nice straight ruler. That's how I flush up those two parts. I've got a 1, 2, 3 box there somewhere, but that will do the job. It's thicker than the piece I'm cutting, so it you can line the two up. So I've just put that plastic piece on. I'm just very lightly gonna sketch out what I think I might make. I think you see I'm using my finger and the pen have locked together, and I'm measuring that parallel line. I've kept my finger on the pen in the same position for each of those, so they're parallel. Close enough for rock and roll anyway. You know, there'd be a next to nothing in it. Just looking at those, how much do I want from the front? A little bit more. Right, so you can see I've decided where I'm going with this. Just getting the ruler on it, measuring a couple of bits there just to get the angles right. Like it, let's chop it. So this is the side piece. Again, I've copied the length of it from the top piece, U shape. Now I've scored it and I've not snapped it all the way through, folded it, and now I can just cut using one half as a guide for the other. And now that I've copied that across, I can sand them both together so they perfectly match, and then open them up and they snap and come apart. Boom. Lovely. And you can see how well they match. Glue that up, eh? Just using the capillary action of the glue there, running along that edge, it will suck into where it's needed. Any little voids there, that super fine glue just runs into them. Popped it against the 1, 2, 3 block to make sure it's nice and square. Lovely. More of the same on the side pieces. You'll notice I didn't cut the lengths of those down. So now I've got them lined up on the back where they overhang the front. I cut them flush. And I'll put that down on a bit of sandpaper again after a couple of minutes of the glue setting up, and sand that all flush. So here we go. Some of the footage melted because it didn't like the hot weather. But what I've done, just that wedged piece from the Corvus Black Star, made a nice shape there. Put a bit of green stuff just to fill up the distance there. I was mixing some up for something else. I just shoved it in there, shoved the magnet into the green stuff, pushed them together with a bit of masking tape between the green stuff and the top of the tank, and they didn't stick. Arrasing this edge, looking at the character, the design of the Demios, it's got some nice knocked off edges where there's a nice bevel across it. So to emulate that on this top part, I'm just knocking off that side. So I'll sand a bit, I'll look across at the other side, feel it, look and feel. Right, so now that I've primed that up, what I'm doing is a little trick here. I've put the two halves together, taken a photo, and I'm desaturating it, but on your phone, monochrome, taking all the colour out. Now I can see what it all looks like together, and I can get a feel for what it will look like when it's all painted the same colour, when it's all that same blue, because it looks obviously quite different right now. Right, so what do we want? I definitely want some rivets. How many do I want? I've looked at my picture, I've figured out I want some rivets. But I'm also going to put some of those weird little rectangles that, what do they do? What do they serve? What purpose do they serve? I don't know. Little flaps. You open that up and there'll be loads of greeblies under there. Or like a handle. Or an explanation as to what really happened to the squats. Somebody's written, Emperor is a twat. Horus did nothing wrong. Something like that, I imagine. So, just a few scraped lines there. And I will copy that across. Scratchy, scratchy. You've seen the technique. Now, rivets. This is my preferred method, just because rivets are dead fiddly. So you get a little bit of your plastic rod, you cut it square, dab it in the super glue, and then stand it up in that little blob. It doesn't have to be perfectly square and level. And then you can trim them all back. So it looks like I've glued loads of weird hair onto it right now. But in a second, when I trim them back, it looks great. Same stuff as the plastic card. Get it from places on the internet, or if you've got a model shop, hobby railway stuff, you know. Dab and stick, dab and stick. Looks like a very boxy hedgehog. Well, everybody, I've made a cubist hedgehog. Follow along and build a cubist hedgehog that fires missiles. And you can see, as I trim them off, I've got more for the next lot that I'll glue on elsewhere. There we go. So I worked my way around the hedgehog, and I don't think any of them came off while I was cutting, which is a first. Yeah, pretty. Put those to one side, maybe mix them in with some hundreds and thousands, sprinkle them on a donut or something. The donut pattern Whirlwind hedgehog tank. I haven't been drinking, honest. Just sleep deprived, and it's been one of those weeks. So what am I going to put in there? Rummage around. You can put a heavy flamer on it. Quite like that idea as a defensive weapon. D3 something or other heavy flamer hits when somebody charges you. Yeah, probably do that. So yeah, nadir shading and zenithal highlighting. Orthogonal to a horizontal flat surface. Direction the opposite of the nadir is the zenith. Yeah, the direction opposite the zenith is the nadir. So the shadow to the light. I don't need to do this because you saw me paint a cat tank, didn't you? You saw that one? You've not seen that one? Oh, that's good. You see, now what you got to do is click like, subscribe and ring that little bell, and then you'll see my videos when they pop up. Brilliant, isn't it? Cost you nothing. Give it a go. And of course, if you really would like to support my channel, there's a link to buy me a coffee. It's like Patreon, all that palaver. What am I on about? I'm painting a tank. It's a hedgehog. Fires missiles. Some lot more of these green flashes as my technology melts. Clearly, it's a little bit more susceptible, and I might have to drop another 80 quid on a new one. Did I mention you could buy me a coffee and support the channel when little bits of technology break? Like and subscribe while you're at it, you know. It's just there. Just reach out. Press a little button. Ring a bell even. You can ring a bell and then you'll know when my next wafflesome bullshit, where I glue myself to the table, set my leg alight with super glue, get a mouthful of cat tail. If he ever comes back, he's done a runner. I've not seen him in a fortnight. I'm really worried. What the fuck? Anyway, tank, shut up. As is traditional, you put the tank on the roundy round thing, and then you put a pink light on it, because you've got to have a pink light. You know, if you're going to play on YouTube, it's very serious, this YouTube stuff. I've, yeah, there we go. And you put a nice black background, and then you put a little flag over the top to block some of the light out, so the light doesn't hit the background and it gets darker, you see. It gets darker. There you go. And then the fill light from the front with the pinky purple. I don't know, do you call it pink or purple? I don't know. Am I colourblind? That's going round. Lovely. Fucking rambling off. This coffee's really quite strong, isn't it? What would I do differently? Probably make that initial layer of plastic thinner and then make the reinforcement a bit thicker. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just love it and just need to get used to looking at it. Often the way with these things. I've got, ow, it's a knife. I've got a cut. I've got the other half of the base, the old Warhammer Fantasy. I'll file that for later. Fantasy base that I cut in half, so I could always make another one. If I really didn't want to make friends. I heard somebody recently referring to the Whirlwind in 30k as the friend maker. I suspect that might mean it's filthy, so it's not as sleek as the Scorpius. I've had 2 of them in the past. Built them, painted them, and sold the army. Built it, painted, sold the army. Why do I do this? I like painting armies. Commission me to paint your army. Fucking rambling off. This coffee's really quite strong, isn't it? Oh god. Wrong hole. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. Have a go yourself. See if you're going to build a Whirlwind. A Graviton Predator perhaps. With a chunky barrel. But I didn't end up using it after all. I made it thinking I needed some more heavy support choices. Didn't end up taking it. I used a Predator with a Graviton cannon from a Leviathan that I'm turning into a beach buggy. You know, like you do. Those panels, they make lovely mud guards. I don't know if I'll do a video. I might just make it for me. Don't know. I've got it. I've blue tacked it. I've started on it. You can't see. Maybe I'll show you. But yeah, quite pleased with that. I used that, what was it, on Sunday. Blew some people up. Look at that. She thick. Anyway, I liked it because... just because it leaves big pie plates on the table, which slows people down. And that feels particularly Alpha Legion, you know, to have a gun that hurts you but also makes this tar pit of weirdness, slightly esoteric 30k weapons that disrupt the fabric of the universe. Imperial Whirlwind. My pinny, I've taken that off because I spilt half a gallon of super glue on it. That chunky, super thin super glue fell over. The whole lid came off. So I spilt a lot. This is super thin super glue. So I put a paper clip in there to get a few drops and drop it on these small parts, and it runs into all the nooks and crannies. It doesn't leave a blob on the surface. That's why I use that. It's good for basing stuff as well. But it's also very good for pissing everywhere and setting your leg alight. When it goes off that quick, it's creating heat and will set a light to your leg. I've got blisters on my thigh. It's right next to my Night Lord's tattoo. just a couple of little blisters where I was lifting the penny off so it didn't set alight to my leg. That was a message. What the fuck was that? Did that come from my phone's off? Yeah, the other reason this one's a bit disjointed was the fucking cat's gone missing. The tank commander there, I built him his tank and he's gone walkabout. I put these out in the local neighbourhood. I must have put half a dozen in some doors and somebody goes, oh yeah, he's in my back garden. That back garden is about 200 yards over there. I've been worried senseless for about a week and he's like literally a stone's throw away. So I'm worried, thinking he's been run over or stolen or God knows what. Especially after the other week when the other cat came in with a fucking lump on his head like this and cost me 500 quid at the vet's. 500 quid that I can't very well afford right now because nobody in Britain has got any money unless they own shares in a fossil fuel company or water. It's not what we came here for, is it? He came back, didn't he? The neighbours over the way found him, just mooching about. Rubbing the belly. I think the fucking thing's going again. Well, there's a poor little bit of technology down the other end of this wire and it gets very warm. All this nonsense warms it right up and I hope it's not corrupted